Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another podcast of Military to Mainstream. I am your host, Ricardo. I served in the Marine Corps from 2006 to 2017. Today, we have the honor of joining us, Jonathan Newby. He's also a Marine Corps veteran. He served from September of 2004 to September of 2009. He reached the rank of E5, which is a sergeant, and he was my favorite MOS, the 6113 CH-53 Echo power plants mechanic, also known as a flightliner. Jonathan, thanks for being with us. I appreciate you giving your time, and I appreciate you for your service.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Richard, and happy to see you and talk to you again. Been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but you're looking good, man. So I'm happy to see that. So why don't we just jump right on into this, and let's give the listeners a little background on you, right? So what was your military experience like for you, and what was your primary role?
Sure. So as you said, I was a 6113 myself, which is a CH-53 power plant mechanic. Our job is supply, right? We're there to, give everybody what they need to kind of keep the fight going, so to speak, right? As a flightliner, our job was very complex. It's, turn wrenches, trying to keep the flight schedule right. That role kind of helped me see big picture stuff, which kind of led me into everything else that I do kind of today. But that big picture stuff is like, seeing a process and knowing you have to keep that process in place because lives are at stake. And those kind of invaluable lessons that you learn from those processes kind of play into real life. That's kind of what it did for me, right? I did 3 tours to Iraq. Heavy workload, heavy maintenance. First one was a mechanic. Second one, I was a flight line, desk sergeant. And then my third one, I was a tool room chief. So, each one I got a different perspective and, from like a worker bee all the way kind of up to like a chief, so to speak. And so that also gave me some good, valuable life experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're saying like you at a young age, you realized like that life and death came into play with the things you did. Like, were there any impactful moments you remember specifically during your time in the Marine Corps that kind of put that into place?
You were in my unit, man. You know what it was like being in HMH 466. We had those, when I got there, we were at, 30 or 40,000 mishap-free hours. I left, we were at 70, 80,000 mishap-free hours. That's a big deal, and, the existence, the whole time I was in, never had a Class A mishap kind of thing, right? Having that kind of pride and, reverence for what you do, that kind of stuff carries weight and carries over to other things you do in life. And so, that stood out to me a lot, and that gave you pride in what you did, and that's what I've tried to carry over into everything I do since.
Yeah, I mean, in my biased opinion, we were in the best helicopter squadron there could ever be, the Wolfpack. And when you say pride, right? Those mishap-free hours, like that was ingrained in everyone from the top to bottom. Like, hey, safety, like lives are at stake, even though we're in a training environment. Like, we're not like a Humvee mechanic where if a part malfunctions, we stop on the ground. If a part malfunctions in the air, that helicopter has a chance of coming down. So it is very eye-opening to see that our decisions make an impact on other people's lives. And I can see how that transitions into the things you do now. So when you were transitioning after your 5 years in the Marine Corps, what did you, in your experience, think it was going to be like? And then what did you realize that it was really like once you started that transition period?
Oh, what's the best way to say this? I always told my family this story. They always ask me this question, what was harder, going in or getting out? And going in is 10 times easier than getting out is. And the reason I say that, it's like you get married going in, and then you get out and you're in an arranged marriage where you have these two people. You have who you were and who you are now, and you have to figure it out all at once, kind of thing, when you get out, right? You know how it is in the military, man. You did 11 years. You did another enlistment more than I did, and once you kind of let them know you're done, you're kind of on that pathway. And they kind of wipe your hands to a certain degree, right? They point you in the direction of where you're supposed to go, but there's not really anybody to walk you through anything that's going on, right? Oh, go to this link, go look at this, go do this. you got to go. I mean, it's usually a lot more in depth that it's, one conversation that leads to 20 something conversations to get the answer you need, right? Maybe it's the VA, whatever the case may be, right? There's all these programs that are out there that they kind of throw at you at once, but they kind of wipe your hands with you once you go down that path. I very much felt that way when I told them, I was done. They were throwing you all kinds of money to try to stay when you do it, but the second you let them know, no, money's not the problem. It's what I want to do with my time. And once you kind of let them know that, they're like, oh well, he's getting out. You're out of the brotherhood, quote unquote. You're not out of the brotherhood, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Like the mentality when you get out is, you know, you're not useful. I don't want to say that like you're not useful, but you are. I think you get what I'm saying when I say that.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe that piece of it, but you know, that being said, I was a lot different than a lot of people. I don't know if you remember when I was getting out, but I had a very good plan, so to speak. Like I used the military as a stepping stone, as I knew it would be for me, right? To transition into college for myself. So like I got out on the early out release. It didn't really get me out any earlier. I got out like maybe a week or two earlier, but the fact that, I put in for the stuff and went through that whole process, I made it very clear, like I was enrolled in college. I mean, I had my books and everything paid for, signed up for, the basic VA education stuff before I even, was on terminal leave. So, stuff like that, having a plan is like one of those things that really kind of helped me, so to speak.
Yeah, I think just to hit on two of the things you touched on, how they put you to the side. I would say like they kind of take you out of the big picture planning, right? Because they know you're no longer going to be there. So you're not going to be a useful resource for them long term. You still can be there to like manage the day-to-day activities and manage the troops and get some maintenance done. But big picture, if they're planning for deployments, they're not counting on you anymore. So it can feel like you're pushed to the side, and you're right. You're not out of the brotherhood. We're never out of the brotherhood, but you're out of that inner circle of like the core of the squadron of who's putting the missions together and putting the planning together. And it can feel like you're ostracized. I think that's the way you say it. Like you're just left out, and you're out in the wind just trying to figure it out on your own. Myself, I had the luxury of being a staff NCO. So my last year, when I had told them I was getting out, I got to do the planning like you were talking about. You talk about setting up a plan. I feel that so many veterans work until the day they're out, like these E4s, E3s who don't have the luxury of voicing their opinion and being heard. Like they're being ran to the end, and they're not able to get the time to do their medical they need to do, or to plan for school and how they're going to use their GI Bill. So I'm happy you had a plan. I'm happy you're talking, because you're going to tell people the importance of planning when you're getting out and not just hoping for the best. So do you remember a time once you were out that you had like an obstacle that you had to overcome that you weren't really ready for or prepared for?
Um, I mean, it's just the transition from being in a combat veteran into college was a big step. Going from oh, this is my thing, and you hear people complain about doing homework in classrooms, and it's like, dude, I got to get a C and I get paid. Like that's it's such a different mentality when you're going to Iraq, every year or so, and then oh, I get to sit in a classroom, and I you know from my standpoint, the effort wise, like I barely had to try in college, and I was an A plus student until I got to undergrad stuff. So, I mean, it was really that simple for me. And it was about mind frame. I had a plan. I knew the mechanic thing was great, but it wasn't my calling, right? Like pieces of it was my calling, right? Like the whole big picture stuff and understanding a process, and the accountability of that process, and how all those pieces interact and stuff. And that kind of led me my job, man. I mean, I chose management information systems. I was an accounting major before that, and this kind of spoke to me because it's you talk to people in the software development lifecycle, and you solve problems for people that don't understand how to speak the lingo for different channels in that, right? You have business and development, and business speaks business, development speaks development, and my job is to kind of understand all that and put the piece of the puzzle together in terms of a process, in the context of maybe a system or an application. So, as you can kind of see, right, there's a whole system of accountability there. It's not life or death, but there's a lot of similarities there. to a certain degree, because you have to kind of create the system of accountability, and it gives you a chance to kind of show your skills to a certain degree, and it helps you stand out. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I was able to do when I got out is, I have this certain skill set that college kids can't pay for what we get from an experience wise, especially from, being a 19, 20-year-old kid, and, oh, well, you're in charge of this program, and hey, this one tool's missing, an aircraft comes down, your ass is going to Leavenworth. I mean, that's a huge mind frame to kind of throw somebody into, and that carries weight moving forward. And so, I basically figured that out and threw that into something that my discipline would be, and I've flourished because of it. I mean, I get valued because of that, because I know kind of when to speak up. I'm passionate about what I do, and it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, sometimes the passion can burn you, but they want military vets like that have drive and this plan, right? And that's the best thing I can say is have that plan and know how to utilize those skills. I mean, a job perspective, right? I mean, I got 15K more than most of the kids out of college because I knew how to speak to my military experience. I have leadership experience doing X, Y, Z, running the tool room like I ran. A lot of people give you crap for running tool room, but that's a huge program, man. If you can relate that to real world corporate values, dude, that was 10K right there, just in my pocket yearly extra from other college students, just from being able to talk to that.
Yeah, that's great. Like you talk about the skill set that you can't get from college, and you built on what you learned in the military, right? And then that got you 15K extra. So you're 5 years getting paid to learn this stuff, transition to 15K extra starting out. And I'm happy that you're able to see that you didn't want to be meching all the time, and you knew that you had a skill set, because running tool room is not easy. And I think I saw that once I was a staff NCO, and I saw all the CNAP audits and everyone coming through, and I was like, oh man, I do not want that job at all. I'm happy where I'm at. So transitioning that into your civilian job, I can see that's why you're flourishing and being successful. So after getting out, did you land that job right away, or were you going to school first and then a couple years later you got it? Or how did that timeline work out for you? Were you just lucky to get that right away?
I mean, it was a lot of it's like anything with corporate, especially the corporate life. It's all timing and kind of a luck of the draw, so to speak, right? It's like who you know, how you network, how you put yourself out there. I mean, for me, I got out and I made it very clear. I'm like, I'm not working. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure I can utilize my benefits to the maximum. I applied for whatever grants I could get. There's all kinds of like government grants out there for vets that you do not have to pay the money back to once you take it, and they'll give it to you every semester for school. And so I would, I moved into somewhere, and I lived with some roommates for the first 2 years in associate school. I got my associate's degree and graduated. I recommend going the community college associate degree path and finishing and graduating through that path. So they can't pull oh, you have to take my college course when you get to my college stuff, because if you graduate with some piece of paper in your hand, they can't tell you that, as long as it's a state accredited kind of university deal, right? And so I leveraged that. I graduated with the 3.0, had a couple dean's lists, and got into the University of Georgia. It's the only school I applied to. I got in first shot. Got in first shot with the program I wanted to for the business program, because it all kind of worked out. But I had the foundation in place, knowing that I wanted to go to college. University of Georgia was my dream school, and I mean, I went there. For my GI Bill, it's basically it was E5 sergeant pay. Is what they give you every month. Plus, it was like $1,200 a month to go live on college campus, and you have to keep a C average, and they give you like $1,000 dividend for books every year or every semester for books. And so, I went from a 3.0 to a 2.89. I had a internship lined up for me. I did an internship over the summer with NCR. I was part of their like $1 billion acquisition of Radiant Systems. It was my first project. Huge, they're like trademark acquisition. I was on the ground floor learning the ins and outs of how all that stuff worked as like a Oracle ERP manufacturing analyst. So, Oracle systems, kind of learning that system hand in hand. And so I had that job lined up and an offer in hand waiting for me when I got out of college because of all those kind of things I did. And all I really did was apply to the program I wanted to do and kind of do the basics I'm supposed to do for the program. Most of those college programs, they make you do, like, especially business school, like networking, extracurricular activities as part of the curriculum. And knowing what I know now, I wish I would have done more of
Mhm.
those kind of things, because those networking things, especially for, I mean, they have programs just for vets at college that I didn't even know about until I found out, until I got done. And so those like programs, it's, go talk to those ROTC guys there. Like, they have all kinds of things there where they want to hear about your experiences, and they have programs there for you to help, right? And help you transition with those experiences, because it's just, um, some of those idioms you can't get rid of. I mean, I was one of those kids, college is crazy now. People are unstable and emotional. And so I was one of those ones. I got called a couple times. I'd sit in the same spot every time. And it's like, why do you sit in the same spot? It's like, I want to see where all the doors and windows are at so I can get out and I can act if something happens. So, like, you still don't lose those military instincts, man. So, like, I'm saying those kind of things. Like, I know it sounds like a little paranoid, but, like, I still brought some of those things in the classroom. Every project I was on, I was always nominated for leadership from those other people, because they recognize your military stuff. Like, hey, you be the leader. And I sometimes I'm like, no, I want to be an everyday person so I can learn what it's like to be a civilian again. So, like, I'm bringing that up because those are examples of things that you kind of go through when you're in college. The group work is a big thing from that perspective, and that's one of the hardest things as a military guy. The force group work is a little bit different than it is from the civilian side, right? You kind of have to get along in the military, whereas the rules are a little bit different at play on the civilian side. And kind of learning those interactions in college really helped me kind of prepare for some of the interactions you're going to have.
Yeah, a lot of good points you just mentioned about college, right? Like, first of all, doing your undergrad work, um, your what is it called, the general ed that you have to do first. But doing it at a community
Mm-hmm.
college is probably the smartest move, because you're able to like make that transition back into school. You will, for at least for me, I can relate to you. Like, that was easy compared to the military. Sitting in a class for a couple hours and then doing the homework. The real hard work was the major work. And I went to SDSU and I got my business degree as well. And you talk about these networking events. I too wish I would have went to more, because for me, I was kind of still in my shell, fresh out of the military. So I just, like you said, I just wanted to be a civilian almost, and just like not have the pressures of having to lead or having to like perform. But I do wish I would have gone to more of those, because now I see the value in that. So if you're using your GI Bill right now, I mean, you're hearing it from two vets who've gone through business school that go to those networking events, because those networking events are going to help you sharpen your business skills and help you get the contacts you need to be successful out in the civilian sector. So a lot of good points you made there. Um, what so you talk a lot about programs, right, and leveraging them. I love that, because a lot of us aren't doing that. Besides the GI Bill, did you leverage the other benefits that are out there for military veterans, like your VA disability or the VA loan or anything else?
Yeah. So, I actually had another vet that we served with, Josh Mills. He had turned me on to kind of getting more of my benefits kind of going, right? I did one of those third party services to kind of get you going. I went from getting 10% disability to
Mm.
80% disability, for my back and sinuses, so to speak, from all the stuff that I did. And it was actually kind of perfect, right? That happened like right before all the COVID stuff happened, and I was a consultant at the time. I literally, March 17th, 2020, like everybody else, it was doomsday for me. You get an email saying we want to see all the consultants, and you get that, what's going to happen when you work in corporate America when they say we want to see everybody at once. So, I got laid off, and then literally the next month, all my benefits kicked in, and I got back paid while I was going through the whole process, kind of thing. So, like, you know, those military benefits that are out there, the VA, you've been through the VA. It's never an easy thing. The programs are never kind of easy to kind of get contact with, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with a government job, and those people usually have no affiliation with the military whatsoever. A lot of time, there's a lot of guys, a lot of vets that work for the VA kind of thing, but a lot of those guys are just regular civilians that work there. It's a job, and you can't fault those people for what they're doing. It is what it is. But it's there to act as a deterrent the way I see it. They want to make all these barriers because they're trying to limit people from using it, is the way I look at it. Just learning from what I've learned now. But our job in the military is perseverance. Stick through it and do whatever you got to do, whether it's going the natural route and doing that, or go to one of these third party services that helps assist you get your VA benefits. It's life changing. I mean, life changing. I literally get like a third paycheck once a month now on top of the other paychecks I get. And if you're smart and you can do things right, I'm actually about to start the VA home loan process right now. I'm going through that because of I just transitioned to a job, and I live in South Florida, and the market down here is just for houses is ridiculous right now. And I'm paying way more than I should for rent, and I literally just did the stuff. I looked at half. I can spend half of what I'm paying right now just from transitioning to a VA home loan. So, I mean, all these programs are out there for us because of the sacrifices that we made. They're there to be used, and they're underutilized across the board. I can't say that enough. I mean, from the college perspective, look into those Pell grants. I said I got some grants. Pell grants is another thing that I use. They have special benefits to the military. And then you're a California guy, right? I think, if I remember correctly. I'm in Florida, man. Florida's really good to vets. If you're even slightly disabled here, it's like $5,000 tax break for property taxes in the state. If you're 100% disabled, it's you get 100% property tax written off. So like, every state has their own, benefit systems and the way they treat things. California, Illinois are those states where you can use their college benefits before you use the federal government military benefits. So like, look into things like that. Go to your inactive reserve follow-up because they have programs there that they give you. I know you think it's a waste of time, and it is just a pitch for them to try to get you back, but there are benefits to going to get access to some of those programs, because that's how I found out about those Pell grants.
Yeah, nothing's really ever free. so they're going to try to get you in, but there's programs for you. Going back to the VA, the process being so hard to limit the people that use it, I've had that experience too, right? Like the paperwork and the persistence that you have to be on top of it. If you get discouraged at all, you're going to fall off. So like staying persistent with that is definitely important when it comes to dealing with the VA, because yes, they'll give you the benefits, and yes, they're there for you, but they're not going to hold your hand to do it, and they're not going to make it easy for you, as easy as they probably should be. I'm interested in this third party experience. I kind of used the third party to bump my disability up. But it was just like an old crusty vet guy who was working at some veteran place who helped me, but he didn't charge me anything. The third party place that you used, was there like a fee you had to pay, or was it just, they were just helping you out?
Yeah. So it's a fee-based service, basically. It was a bunch of, like, all the guys I talked to that worked there were basically former vets that kind of went through the process themselves, and they're trying to help other vets. But I think it was like Veteran Solution or something. I can find you an email and I'll forward it to you so you can share it later with everybody if you want.
Sure.
But they basically have their own network of doctors and everything. But the fee, there were like two different ways to do the fee. When I got the back payment, they basically took a huge chunk of the back payment as part of the fee to go through all the stuff. But like, you're utilizing their network to kind of help you get through all the headaches that you would go through with the VA, right? Like when I did it, I filled out I had to download all the paperwork. I had to go to their VA portal and do all that work to get the stuff set up. But they walked me through it on the phone, helped me get everything set up so I can get all the paperwork. And then, hey, you got to follow up with this guy. You got to do this. You got to do that. Having that person to help you walk through the process, it was more than worth what I paid for the service. And like I said, like ever since that point, my life has been exponentially better. And I'm trying to like budget my whole future based off of, if something does happen in the corporate world, I can kind of fall back on what I do get from my VA benefits. My lights are going to be on. I'm going to have a roof over my head, and I'm going to be able to basically go down the street and get a 9-to-5 job doing whatever to kind of keep myself sufficient. Right. And I'm saying that out loud because I think that's part of the plan, so to speak, that I've spoken to. Have your goals, have your plan. Like my plan is I'm trying to, I mentioned to you when I got on about the slice of pie, man, like the American dream is still very much real and it's still out there. Don't listen to all the fuzz that's out there. Um, Go after your piece of pie, whether it's just, um, owning a house, being a homeowner, start a business. I can't, there's so many programs out there to be able to be a vet and start your own business. Um, Even if you don't want to start your business that way, like I'm a consultant, there's options being a consultant and any line of work as a consultant to create an LLC, pay yourself and, end up paying less in taxes, right? I mean, you can literally create your own wealth in your own business. Um, just knowing and networking and kind of knowing what programs are out there. And I can't tell you how many times, whether it's traveling, whatever, you just have a side conversation with a guy that's a vet, and it could be a vet from 10 years, from 20 years, or 30 years. Other vets want to help you, especially retired veterans that are in civilian sector that are business owners, because they want to, because if you succeed, they succeed. It's the same thing I told all my college guys. It's like, we're in competition with each other, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, because the more successful all the people that are in your class do, in terms of the jobs they get, the money they make, the more successful you are, the more successful the brand is overall, right? And so it's the same thing for all of us vets. The more successful one of us are, the more successful all of us are, and the more you can share and help your buddy out. Whatever the case may be. Maybe it's just a simple phone call that they're having a bad day and they need some advice. Those the camaraderie is the hardest thing to replace when you get out. It's the
Yes.
one thing you'll never replace. You'll never find, no matter how hard you try, no matter how perfect the job may seem. At the end of the day, the corporate world will spit you up and chew you out. And so that's why, you have to do everything you can to kind of use whatever's out there to protect yourself and make whatever you want to be, just like you did in the military. We were all clean shaven, you know, kids, clueless kids, not knowing what to do, and they trained us how to be war fighters and warriors. And like I said at the beginning, right? It's that marriage, man. You got to learn how to make that marriage work for you and move forward, man, because you're gonna have that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, like we have to create ourselves, right? Because no one's gonna give us the direction. No one's gonna tell us where to be, what time to be, what to wear. There's none of that once you get out the military. So we do have to create ourselves and figure out who we do want to be. And then we do have to leverage the other veterans because we want to see each other succeed, because why wouldn't we, right? We understand each other. We serve with each other. Like, we want you to be successful after you gave years of your life to this country. Like, we want to see you be successful. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to relate to a lot of people. So what's on the plate for you next? What do you got coming up? What goals, what aspirations? What's on Jonathan's plate for the near future? You're going to buy a home, right? That's what you're looking for in the next move. What else?
Buying a home. I still haven't started the family yet. That's kind of in the near term plans. Hopefully that'll all work out. God blessing. You never know how that stuff works out. Um, I just try to stay busy, man. I'm trying to work hard now so that when you know everyone's got their motivation and their plans. My motivation is my uncles. I have two uncles that are very successful. I lean on them a lot for support and advice. And they always tell me, you're not in competition. You're not in competition with them. But I am, dude. Like, you guys set the bar and I'm trying to beat you. And so, they're in their 60s, they're self-made. They pretty much work for themselves. My goal is in the next 10 years to be able to walk away from what I'm doing now, walk away from stress, from being a consultant, and be self-made. I want to start a business. I'm not sure what that business is going to be. Right now it's looking like it's probably going to be some kind of real estate management kind of thing, where I try to start doing some property, owning a set of properties in a different area and start an empire that way. That seems to be the best route, no matter what I look at. There's no shortcut to, generating wealth. There's no magic ticket short of the lottery. And, every fool thinks they're going to win the lottery. The one thing I can say that, I do a lot of reading and studying for business leaders, watch a lot of podcasts. The one trait that I've seen, and it's the one trait that every military vet has, is the one common denominator every successful person has is hard work. And don't let anybody fool you. Hard work doesn't mean there isn't hardship or problems along the way. Don't be afraid to dive into your fears. I say that every time I've had that gut feeling where I'm nervous or I'm anxious, and I make myself do it. I am 20 million times better off afterwards. I learned something. Even if I fail, don't be afraid of failure. Failures are your biggest lessons. Success breeds complacency. That's the biggest thing I can say. That's rampant in the civilian world, that complacency thing where people, they're looking for that. Oh, well, you did your basic job and you want the pat in the back. Don't be that person. Do what the military taught you. Go above and beyond. It will pay off. That's the
Yeah.
best thing I can say. Those little things like that resonate the most to me.
Yeah, I like this quote that I have for the year. It's lean into the unknown, right? Because it's only failure if you don't keep trying. Like you're gonna learn a lesson, and then you're gonna know that, and just don't make that same mistake, and you're gonna be a better person because of it. And I would say you're already self-made. You're doing great for yourself. So just aspiring to be like your uncles is just, I think that's just you wanting to show them that you can do it too. And I mean, they sound like great people to aspire to be like. So I'm rooting for you, and I hope you get there in 10 years. And I mean, biased opinion, but real estate's a good way to get there as well. And especially if you leverage your VA loan and use it correctly, like you can really squeeze so much out of that VA loan for no money down. And then you have a disability rating, so you can waive your funding fee. And then you just got to pay attention to the market and watch rates and see what makes sense. But man, the VA loan can definitely put you on a generational wealth path, like for sure. Um, let's start wrapping it up. So for military members who are preparing to transition, what advice would you give to them that you wish you knew? And then for those veterans who are already out of the military, what words of encouragement would you like to share with them?
I'll reiterate the point I made earlier about the networking. I think, use your network of your friends now. Some of my friends I made when I was in, I talk to on a daily basis almost now. I made lifelong friendships from that. Don't be afraid to utilize those for whatever the case may be. It's sad that we have to talk about certain things, but we have a lot of brothers out there that don't understand that they have a network of support, whether it's just someone they need to talk to, work, college, whatever the case may be. Just use it. Use whatever program is out there and available to you. Don't be afraid to ask your fellow veterans for questions, especially the ones that have been through it. I'm one of those ones. Time anyone asks me to do it, I'm happy to walk you through. I get on my friends for not going through the third party service and doing the same thing I did, just like Josh did to me for not doing it. And then I guess for words of encouragement, the transition is really hard. Everyone goes through the transition. It's not easy for any of us. It breaks my heart seeing the guys that get out that had no business getting out, and they got out with no plan. And then all of a sudden, you can totally see that they're missing the Marine Corps. A lot of the Marine Corps guys are like that. I don't know how it is for the other branches of service, but, and it breaks my heart seeing that because, sometimes just kind of walking through what you wanted to do before you get there. Right. I know for us, it was difficult because you're a wartime vet. I don't know what it's like now. We're in a buildup, it seems like, to a war, so to speak, to a certain degree too. So I don't know what that's like. I went in when it was the middle. So, have a plan, talk to people, stick to the plan, work hard at it. And like you said, lean into it. Don't be afraid to fail. Learn from stuff, and you're going to flourish. You have all the tools right now already, as a veteran, an active veteran, a transitioning veteran, whatever you want to call it, to succeed in this world and be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, well said. I'm guilty the most of not leaning into the veteran community more. There's so many reasons why, but as I do it more, I'm learning how important it is to support each other. And just having this podcast and talking to other veterans is opening my eyes even more. So yeah, lean into the community. And then I agree with you, have a plan. And I don't feel like it has to be a super detailed plan. You don't have to know everything from A to Z, but just have a general idea of where you want to go before you get out. Because if you get out and then you're just lost in the wind, like you try to get back in, it's probably not going to be easy for you to get back in, and you're going to have a tough time. So having a general plan of what you want to do, leveraging your military network, and hard work, right? It's not going to be easy. Nothing's ever easy. If it is, everyone would just be Rainbows and butterflies, right? So well said. Well said. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think that's it, man. Just have a good positive mindset, guys, and stay up. I mean, it's life's a roller coaster. Ride the roller coaster. Don't forget to enjoy it and take it in. We get a lot of us get distracted with work. I'm guilty of that myself. I need to get better about, like you reached out to me and I was doing date night. Enjoy life. Enjoy those little things. It's you sacrificed a lot, and that's what you're there to do now is enjoy it.
Definitely enjoy life. Hey, well, thank you, Jonathan, for joining us. Thank you for your service, and thank you for giving us time. If you guys made it to the end and you're listening to this or watching this, I really appreciate you for watching. If you have any feedback or wanting to make any comments, go ahead and drop them below, and I'll be sure to get to them. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Ricardo. Take it easy.